Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Alley-Oop program. I'm Andrew Gaze. This is Leonard Copeland, and it's our fourth episode. But, Copes, it's going to be a very special one with a very special guest.
Oh, he's big. This is our biggest guest so far. friend of ours.
Yes.
Great coach. I'll let you introduce him.
We speak of the legendary Phil Handy, and he's a legend because he's been a part of a number of different NBA title-winning teams. Most recently with the Toronto Raptors. He was with the LeBron James, with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and right now he's a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. He's one of their lead assistant coaches, and he's in the bubble, so he's going to be able to give us a great insight to all the goings-on inside that NBA bubble. And also on the program a little bit later on, we're going to be talking about who we think is the NBA MVP. And
we should ask Phil that. We probably should ask Phil that as well.
That is 100% what we're going to be doing because he's going to have a much more qualified opinion than what we do.
He's probably a bit biased, though, Drewy, but we'll listen to him anyway.
Well, that's true. He will be biased because he's been alongside arguably one of the greatest, not one of, the greatest of all time in LeBron James. So it'd be great to get his insight. But when we speak of the bubble Copes, there has been a bit going on as the NBA season. Isn't it great that it's just tipped off? It's underway and we've got games back on our television screens, but not without a few hiccups and hardships along the way. And every now and again, Copes, you scratch your head and you think, what is going through some of these players' minds with some of the decisions they make? And only a few days ago, before the season got underway, Lou Williams, who is a veteran of the competition, a very, very important player for the Los Angeles Clippers, your team.
That's right.
Well, I was not aware of this, Coach, but apparently the greatest chicken wings in the world can only be purchased.
You can't say it like that. Listen,
can only be purchased.
He wanted to a strip club to grab some chicken wings and get out because everything else was closed. He went in there, got his chicken wings, the best chicken wings in town, I might add. Got his chicken wings and got out of there.
Well,
what did he do wrong? What did he do wrong?
We all have those things in life which we can't resist. But when you put it in the context of you're in an NBA bubble, the health of your own person, your teammates, the competition, and this billion-dollar industry is at stake. And the league have gone above and beyond the call of duty to educate the players on what they can and can't do. And going out to a strip club,
Drewy,
albeit to get some chicken wings, Coach.
What's the difference in going into a restaurant and going into a bit of clothes? That's it. A bit of clothes.
No.
Restaurant.
Well,
strip club. It's just a bit of clothes, Drewy. That's the difference. There's no difference. People in there, people in here. And they serve the best chicken wings in town, I might add.
Well, Copes, I hear you, and the morality of whether you should be in a strip club or not, that is debatable. But what is not debatable is the care that you need to take in order to protect everyone involved in the NBA bubble.
I agree.
And whether you're going to a strip club or your local restaurant, it's clearly within the guidelines to say you're not allowed to do that because you're going out there, you're fraternizing with the public, and you can take that virus that you might have inadvertently come in contact with someone that has it and bring that back into the bubble, infect players, infect that, and bring the whole system down. So to make a decision like that, as good as those chicken wings may taste, Copes, and I think there may have been some other explanations for why it might have been.
He had on a mask.
Well, it's interesting.
But guys like you, who've probably never been in a strip club,
no, that's not true,
pointing the finger at him, saying he's done something wrong. He's been in the league 15 years, never had a bad thing say about him. All of a sudden, he makes one mistake. I don't call it a mistake. He went into the wrong establishment, they say, to grab some chicken wings. Leave him alone. Well, I'm going to say it like this. If he didn't take any photos, if no one took any photos, no one would know. Now, at the end of the day...
That's not the point, Copes. When you're trying to do the right thing, the point is not to be deceitful, to be sneaky, don't tell anyone.
I'm not trying to be deceitful, but to walk into a strip club with other people in there is the same as walking into a Kentucky Fried Chicken that's full.
And he shouldn't do either. That's my point.
So he doesn't eat?
No, but if you're going into that bubble, you should be isolating yourself from all those because you are in an exceptional circumstance. You've got to stay away from all those types of establishments to minimise that chance of being infected and going into this isolated bubble. And that's the main point.
Well, luckily enough, he was tested and he tested negatively, and he shall be okay and on the floor ready to roll against the Lakers.
Yes. And when you think of the bubble, the other thing that's sort of come to light is everyone trying to figure out, well, are there the haves and the have-nots? Are some more equal than others? And do some have other privileges in the bubble and with things like their accommodation? We saw an image earlier on throughout the course of the week with two great players, the backcourt of the Portland Trailblazers and CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. And in this image that was posted by NBA, they actually blurred out. It was taken out the front of their rooms, of one of their rooms, and I think it had presidential suite. Absolutely. Now, clearly, not everyone, there you see the image. Everyone's not in the presidential suite. This concept of privilege, to me, makes sense. I have no problem with certain players getting other fringe benefits that some of them don't. You earn that right, though. Yeah, I have no problem if LeBron James is in a little bit more luxurious form of accommodation than, say, your 11th or 12th man. That makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Absolutely.
Why do you have to go to the trouble to blurring it out and say that, well, this is some sort of egalitarian situation?
Sure. Look, we know you played the game for a long time. Mm. If you put in the time and you're a superstar, you deserve the privileges.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here today. You're not going to put LeBron James in a room with bunk beds and expect for him to go out and score 30 points and grab 10 rebounds.
Yes.
You know, I mean, so it is what it is. So at the end of the day, listen, put those guys in the president. There's only a couple of presidential suites anyway. So what are you going to give them to? You're going to give them to the 11th and 12th man? Or you're going to give them to the superstars? I'm giving them to the superstars.
Of course, and I 100% agree with that. But then you get into that grey area where you've got veteran players who are saying, hang on, well, maybe I've earned the right for a little bit of privilege. And JJ Redick, he was speaking on the Global Kid Power Hour with Vedant Gupta, and he alluded
Spell that for me.
Gupta, Gupta is his surname. JJ Redick. I probably mispronounced that, so apologies to that. But he was alluding to the fact that that his conditions may not be as good as some of the others.
Had a kitchen in here. So now I'm not going to name names here. My room is very tiny. I don't even have a couch in my room. I've got this little desk that I'm talking to you from now and a bed, and that's it. But I've been in a couple of my teammates' rooms, and I've seen some video of a couple superstars' rooms at other hotels. And let me just tell you, the bubble experience is not the same for every player. There's some guys who basically have like 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. So I don't have that. No kitchen for me, but there are some guys with kitchens.
So they be doing you dirty.
I'm 36 and I've been in this shit 14 years, and I can't get a nice room.
See, Copes, now I understand that there's going to be those that are down the pecking order, and they probably understand where they're at. Yep. You've got those, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, the superstars, they know where they're at. Yep. It's in that middle tier that's going to be the loudest in regards to, well, what conditions have I had? He makes a very good point. He's been in the league a long time. Can he get a kitchen, Coach?
Hey, I love JJ. He's an excellent shooter. But the one thing we both know is JJ's on the way out the door. He's been in the league for, 15, 16 years. Yes. We both love him. But JJ, it's time for you to go, brother. We're going to put you in this small room, knock down a couple of shots for us, and keep it moving, bud.
Coach, when was a time in your career, in your illustrious career here in Australia.
Yep.
Not so illustrious in the NBA, but still very, very solid. Did you ever experience this privilege over others?
Drewy, I did. My first couple of years here in Melbourne, me and Dave Simmons got our own room. Most imports shared rooms. And you know what's funny? You didn't you go off about that once a little bit?
No, I had no problem.
You were a little bit shaky about that. Why did they have to have their own rooms?
No.
Well, we're the imports. We put in the hard yards, pal.
No, and whether it was true or not, there was always justified to the rest of the team that you guys were actually paying a little bit extra. Now, I don't know whether you were.
That's what you want to believe, then we'll leave it at that, bro.
Are you saying you never paid a little bit extra?
Hey, come on, Drewy. You know, you're the boss. You were paying the salaries.
Well, I think here in Australia, maybe in the AFL it might be a little bit different, but here in Australia, there is definitely a more egalitarian approach. That is, they don't sort of top one in, all in type approach is, and maybe that's just because of the status of the NBL back when we were playing. It's changed a lot nowadays, and certainly some of the players we know ourselves when we were coaching the Sydney Kings. We won't name names, but certainly players say I performed better when I had my own accommodation, and they split the difference with the team, and they sometimes pay their own way with that. So nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't raise perhaps the same eyebrows that it did back.
Let me ask you something. When you played in the NBA, did you have your own room?
Yes, it was mandatory. It was part of, and that was a long time ago.
There you go.
It was mandatory back then that each player, part of the union negotiations, each player when they're on the road had to have their own rooms. Copes, we've already seen some scrimmages that have been taking place. Who's impressed you the most in what you've seen so far? Any standouts in those scrimmages that we've been able to catch? Well, I've been able to catch on NBA TV.
Well, I spoke about him a little bit last week, and that's Bol. Now, here's a guy who's 7 foot. Is he 7'1", 7'2", maybe?
Maybe even bigger than that, yeah.
Maybe even bigger than that. The way he blocked the shot, rebounded the ball, pushed it down the floor, and pulled up for a three-pointer, Drewy. Nothing but net. When have you ever seen a 7'3" guy do that? Block a shot, rebound it, take it to the length of the floor, and he looked natural.
Coach, and on that point, and the Denver Nuggets have stuck out. Now, whether they're going to tinker with this throughout the course of the season once it starts and they're actually playing for competition points rather than just scrimmages. But one thing they absolutely took a look at was this huge lineup. We've seen throughout the world small ball become in vogue. Yep. But they've gone with this huge lineup of power forwards and centres, and they had Nikola Jokic playing the point guard position. Is this something where you look at and say, well, turn it up, guys, this is just not going to work? Or is it something that you can see, you look at and say, well, because it is different, this might have some merit?
Drewy, they're going to get killed. You know why? There's a lot of switching in the NBA. And when you switch, there's a lot of pick and rolls in the NBA.
Yes.
Point guards switch with another point guard. So they're bigs to switching with a point guard. ISO basketball, straight to the basket, foul, layup. They're going to get killed. No way to compare.
Well, that is true, and I think that would be a very common view. But one, it's going to be different, and you're right as far as trying to protect guys getting into the paint, kicking people in front of you. That's going to be hard. But down the other end of the floor,
you can't guard them.
It's going to be equally hard for other teams to old school throw them on the block. Throw it in there. How do you're sending double teams all over the place, and that's got to be pretty hard to contend with as well. But from what you're saying, you don't think that will outweigh the disadvantages down the defensive end?
We know ourselves back when we played, not being as tall as these guys, but we were bigger guards. Yep. It was always harder for those smaller guards to guard us on the box. So I see what you're saying. Offensively, they'll be great. Defensively, they will struggle.
In certain games, just having a look at that, throwing that lineup out, will get the opposing coaches have to think about and weigh up the pros and cons about what you're doing on the defensive end as opposed to the offensive end.
And it'll be fun to watch. And it'll be fun to watch too. That will be.
And Jokic, along with Andrew Bogut, to me, one of the all-time greatest passing big men.
Yes.
So he can pass it, but having him handling the ball, bringing it up the floor, and if they put a little guy on him, that could be interesting
Let's
as
just
well.
wait and see. Let's
just wait and see whether that was just a bit of tomfoolery as they going through the preparation games, or whether it was a legitimate strategy. I actually think they probably will have a look at it, something different, and who knows, they might be setting the trend. Copes, let's turn our attention to MVP. Like we said at the top of the show, we have got the race has already been run as far as performances to earn the right to be regarded as the MVP. So you've got to go back to when the regular season was cut off and finished, and the performance that it had so far to say, well, who is going to be the MVP? To me, I'm liking LeBron James. He's in his 17th season. He's averaging 20. He was averaging 25.5 points a game, almost 11 assists, almost 8 rebounds, a little over a steal a game, and most importantly, 49-14 was the Lakers' record before we went into the hiatus.
Right.
I can't think of anyone that has had such a profound impact on their team like he has in playing to that level.
Oh, really?
In their 17th season.
Is that right?
Now, we just saw the image there of the Greek freak, Antetokounmpo, Giannis Antetokounmpo, but and he was the defending MVP, and his numbers are impressive as well. Almost 30 points a game, more rebounds at 14 points a game, almost 6 assists a game, and they were 53-12 with a better record. So,
Joey,
I don't know. To me,
let me tell you why.
Maybe it's my bias. Yeah,
the Greek freak is my MVP. Now, this is everybody's MVP. Here's a guy who is doing all the work.
Yes.
Leading the team, 53 wins, 12 losses by himself. Mm-hmm. Who's the next best superstar on that team? Is it Middleton or?
Well, he
doesn't have a lot of big names. You look at the Lakers, LeBron James is an absolute superstar. I love him to death. He's got Davis. He's got Rondo. He's got J.R. Smith. He's got 5 or 6 guys that will be superstars on other teams, helping him to get to where they are now. Now, again, LeBron's great. He does it. Everyone loves to see him play. But as far as MVP, I got to go with the Greek freak because he's doing it mostly by himself. Yeah. And they got a better record. Look, he's my MVP.
Coach, so I don't usually do this, but you might have actually solved me. And maybe it's just that emotional connection and just the adulation that I personally have for someone like LeBron James, the pressure that he has to deal with. He's the face of the league.
Yep.
Enormous spotlight of being in Los Angeles and
doing the right thing.
Everything that goes along with LeBron. And for him to still be guiding his team in his 17th season.
Yeah. But
I guess when you take away that emotive angle, albeit that they are still valid criteria, that it is hard to knock back the numbers when you see the Greek freak. And
let me ask you one more question about that.
Yes.
If you took LeBron James off the Lakers team, would the Lakers still win games?
Yes. I think that is a great question, Coach. And I think if you took both of them away from their teams, I think they would have similar impact.
Not a chance in it.
Both those teams would become okay teams, solid teams, but not.
So you got Anthony Davis, J.R. Smith.
J.R. hasn't been there yet, but he's only been there for a minute.
Well, I'm just telling you, because LeBron likes to add people. He likes to add superstars to his team to help him win championships, okay? You take the Greek freak off the Milwaukee team, they don't win another game.
No, I think
0-50. Get out of here with that.
No, you might be just overstating it ever so slightly. Hey, Cubs, the other big news in the NBA, quickly, Tom Thibodeau. Just been announced as the new head coach of the New York Knicks.
Yep.
He's got a lot of experience in the NBA with Chicago and Minnesota. Highly regarded. You look at his win-loss record. It's very, very impressive. There you see the numbers.
59%, is it?
Yeah, it's a very good record. What do you make of that signing by the New York Knicks, who have been, this sounds harsh, but a bit of a basket case in recent times?
I think it was a great signing because Thibodeau is known as a disciplinarian. And I think New York needs someone to come in there and clean it up. I mean, that's the biggest market in the NBA. Playing in New York is the biggest market. And for these guys not to make the playoffs or not be talked about like the Lakers and Boston is a travesty. Drewy, you know, and Thibodeau's known for work, hard work, defense, and that's where they need to start again. They need to get a group of guys that listen to him and let him come in there and clean house, and hopefully they can make it back to the playoffs.
Well, they do. I guess the only thing is, and this is based on just stuff you read on the internet, the only mild bit of concern is it's going to be a really young team. They've got some great superstars in there, well, potential superstars. RJ Barrett, their first-round pick from last season. Kevin Knox is still a very, very young player, and there's some speculation about his long-term future. They're going to have another pretty high draft pick as well this season.
Could be our guy from Illawarra. I mean, from the Hawks.
Yes, LaMelo Ball.
Yes.
The only thing about Thibodeau, and this is based on other people saying it, not from my own observation, but I read a piece that David West, was a veteran of the NBA for many, many years, and he was sort of raised the concern that, well, at his time when he was at Minnesota, there was this speculation that he didn't really connect with young players because of what you were talking about, that hard-nosed, real defensive slant to it all and style of play, where the guys like, you know, back then it was Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins in particular. And they had that whole thing about some of the trades they did with when they got Jimmy Butler, then they got rid of Jimmy Butler. Just whether or not that there might be a personality issue as far as dealing with the younger players, whether that's going to be. But certainly the New York Knicks haven't blinked. 5 years. 5 years is a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that that's a program that needs a lot of rebuilding, but that is a long time.
Thibodeau has proven that he can win.
Yeah.
All he needs is the players on his side. So if I'm Thibodeau, I want to connect with the young guys. I want them to get on my side so I can teach them. And over the years, hopefully we can get back to the playoffs and get back to Knicks basketball.
Yep, certainly. Well, let's hope they do because, as you mentioned, the New York franchise is iconic. They've just been really poor for an extended period of time. And it's a great place to play basketball in the Garden and some big-time fans. And let's hope that they can get that franchise turned around and heading in the right direction. Coach, one of our former teammates, a man that many in Australia are extremely familiar with for some very, very sharp work that he did in his playing days with both the Melbourne Tigers and the West Sydney Razorbacks. And now one of the ghost whisperers, one of these mysterious guys that just seems to be able to bring championships wherever he travels, and that is, of course, our very good friend Phil Handy. Phil, thanks for joining us.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here with you two cats, Drewy. Man. Straight up pleasure.
Hey, Phil, we really want to talk about what you're doing right now, your first-hand experiences of living inside the bubble and what all that entails. But before we get into that, just very briefly, your reflections of back playing in Australia with the Tigers and the Razorbacks and your time in Australia?
Man, you know what? I was watching like the NBA. I follow the NBA on Instagram, and they showed these clips of you and Copes on them lobs, catch-up lobs. And I was like, God, hey, man, how come I couldn't be part of that team?
Well, you were there for a minute. You were part of it.
I was, but I'm going to tell you what, man, like, I didn't really realize how powerful the game was down there until I got there, Drewy Cope. And then to be a part of the team with you guys and, kind of really get brought up to speed on the history of what you guys have been doing down there, man. That was a great time for me, towards the end of my career, but it was a great time and it was a great place for me to go and play because I felt like, I didn't have to go and be somebody that, you know, had to score 25 or whatever night, I could just fit in. And, man, it was, you know, I wish my first year in Melbourne would have been a little better. No injuries. If I wouldn't have been hurt, you know, I probably felt like I would have had a better year. But, man, my time in Australia, that's like my second home, man. I have a deep, deep love for that place, man.
That's great.
Phil, you know, when you beat us in the semifinals, when you played with West Sydney, it was great to play. I just watched that game about a month ago, and it was great to watch you out there and doing your thing, man.
It was crazy. Like, understanding how you and Drewy played, just, you know, playing with you guys the year before. And then, again, like I said, just understanding the history of what you guys have been doing over the years. No, man, I was trying to do my damnedest to, one, compete, and two, you know, come on, Drew, you know, this dude down here, man, all he want to do is talk the whole time. So it was, man, that was one of the most memorable, you know, playoff experiences I had as a player. You know, going through that series, man, that was, because I remember we went to Melbourne and you guys absolutely smacked us in game one. I was just like, yeah, man, we can't go out like this, man. I think y'all beat us by like 30 or something like that. It was crazy.
Since then, and you see the journeys of players, and you're one since being a player, and not just playing in Australia, but you also played some international basketball around the world with various club teams. But that transition from playing into what you're doing now, that journey you take, it's been an extraordinary one. And I sort of said it in jest, but it's been remarkable that the programs that you have been involved in that have won NBA titles. How is it? What was that pathway like to go from a player into the coaching area?
Man, Drew, I think I tell people all the time, it was not expected. I did not expect to become a coach. That was kind of the last thing. I, you know, when I was in Melbourne my first year, I actually started training some kids, just like off, you know, here and there. And then when I went to West Sydney, I started doing it more regular. Started training on our off days. You know, I started training some kids of parents, fans, whatever, you know, a couple days a week. And, man, I really fell in love with that part of just teaching the game and, you know, helping kids get better. So when I retired, you know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I really just got into training. I started doing it full time. And Tony Delk was one of my very first clients. And that really just, it kind of morphed. I did that. I started with one kid, and then it turned into 10 kids, and then it turned into 60 kids. And then it turned into 150 kids. And I was over a 13-year span. You know, I went from training one kid to training every major university in Northern California. Wow. I had about 30 to 40 NBA clients. You know, I started doing stuff with Australian players. I started doing stuff with the Japanese national team. And it really just exploded. And even during that time, I never saw myself being an NBA coach. I really love my business, and I love the training and helping players get better. And when Mike Brown got the job with the Lakers the first time, you know, I had this thing where, man, going in the training industry, I wanted to really help the game and impact the game, and I wanted to be a great trainer. And so when Mike Brown got the job, I wasn't even really interested in the job. But what really tipped the hat for me was for me to have the opportunity to work with Kobe.
Right.
That was what sold me on it. So for me, it was a challenge. You know, I think that I looked at that as like the biggest challenge as a trainer, to say, look, here's an opportunity to try to build a relationship with one of the best players to ever play. And if your philosophy and methods will resonate with him, then you're on the right track. And that was my mind. That was my mindset. You know, Coach Drew, I was thinking about that, and I was like, I didn't know Kobe. I had no relationship with him. I had no experience coaching on the NBA team. And, man, when I got there, you know, I went through that first year. And again, like I said, even when I went, I wasn't like, I'm going to make a career out of it. I was like, man, I can do this for a couple years with Kobe and then go back to my business. Here we are 9 years later, man.
That's great.
Phil,
I couldn't see it going this direction, man.
Yeah,
you've coached guys like Kobe and Kawhi and LeBron. Kind of give us some comparisons of how they work out. I mean, some guy like Kawhi seems like a quiet guy to us. Is he a hard-nosed workout guy, or can you compare those three guys?
Man, I think what people don't understand, like we've all been around some great players, right? Alphas, guys that just have a different gear. Man, these dudes, all three of those guys are extreme workers. Wow. I mean, I'm talking about just the intelligent part, right? The IQ. Not only are they physically gifted, but their basketball IQs are just through the roof. Like understanding the game, dissecting the game from the offensive side to the defensive side. They're like coaches. They're like coaches on the floor. So they understand what they want to work on. And understanding that, the conversations are about, hey, this is what I want to improve on. They know the areas they want to improve, and they're very efficient with their work. Like, they don't like to waste time. When they get on the court, they work, but it's not a lot of wasted time. Look, coach, let's go hard for 30 to 45 minutes. Let's get something out of it. Let's be efficient. I want to maximize my time. But they spend so much time taking care of their bodies as well. Right? They have millions of dollars, man. Yeah. These dudes spend millions of dollars between their nutrition, between their physical therapists. I mean, they have their own, between the weight guys. They spend a lot of money to take care of their bodies off the court to make sure that they can, perform at a high level.
Was it hard for you to gain their trust?
I'm going to tell you, man. I'm going to tell you what Kobe did to me. Yeah. When I first got to the Lakers, it was a lockout that year in 2011, so there was no summer workouts. So the lockout ended. The day the lockout ended, Mike Brown hired me. 2 days later, training camp started.
Yep.
So I didn't have any time to have any ramp up with Kobe. So the first day that I got there, Mike Brown just said to me, look, I don't care what you do, make sure the guys are working. That was his directive to me. Right. So the first 3 or 4 days, I would be there early. Kobe would always be there way ahead of everybody else, but I would get there early to work guys out and start building. He would come out of the training room, Drewy, pull up a chair on the side of the court and sit there for about 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah. And watch and see what I was doing. Yeah. And I didn't really understand it, but I do now because he was wanting to see, do I know what I'm doing? What kind of stuff I'm doing? Does it make? And so he would go back, and maybe about 2 weeks later, man, he called me, and say, hey, look, I want you to meet me at the gym at 5:45. Yeah. So this was like a 2 o'clock in the afternoon call. Yeah. I show up at the gym at 5. I got there by 5:15. I was like, all right, bet, let's get it. I got there by 5:15 in the evening. Man, I waited. I sat there and waited 5:30, 5:45, 6 o'clock, 6:15. So I was like, oh, man, this is not like him. I go home. I come in the next morning. I show up. We practice at 11. I get there at like 8. Man, I get there at 8. He comes barging out of the freaking training room like, yo, Ofo, where you been? Like, you just got to go show up to work? And I was like, bro, I was here last night at 5. He said, mofo. I said 5:45 this morning. Wow. Yo, hey, listen. I sat there and looked at that dude like, man, I said, man, I was here last night. He said, man, 5:45 a.m. Be here tomorrow. Wow. My relationship with him started in that fashion, but what I did, Drew, was I asked him. It really became a collaboration between players like that, man. The first thing I would always do is say, look, now how can I help you? Yeah. What you are, who you are, what do you want to improve on? And Kobe told me, look, I want to get better with my ball handling. I want to continue to tighten up my footwork. And I just want to continue to be efficient. So that gave me a blueprint of some things to throw at him. And, they're the type of guys, Drew, if you giving them stuff, they'll tell you what they don't want. No, I don't really think that applies to the game. And so from there, I'm able to dissect, but I've always treated them just like any other player I work with. No fear. I really just try to go right at them and demand their respect right away in how I work. And I think all three of those guys, man, and any of the other guys I've had a chance to work with in the NBA, I think they all respect my work ethic. And that's what I've always tried to lead with in terms of building relationships with them through the work that we do on the court and not the other way around. And, soon enough, they really understood what I was about, helping them get better, helping them continue and further their careers. And then the trust really just kind of built in and, in a very organic way.
One of the things over the first couple of weeks as we've followed this incredible transition that the NBA's had to make with the season shutting down and now trying to come back in this very unusual environment, which is known as the bubble. Some of the players initially perhaps a little bit reserved about the conditions that are there. What is it like in the bubble?
Man, Drew, look, I'm going to be the first to tell you, the NBA they've done a phenomenal job with this whole thing. I mean, they've spent millions of dollars on the resources. We have everything we need here. I mean, we're at Disney World. We're in a huge resort. We got lakes. There's fishing. There's bowling. There's
golf.
There's golfing. There's bikes that you can ride. So inside the bubble, it's a pretty huge community. You got restaurants, so you can go anywhere you want inside the property. You just can't leave the bubble. And when I say you can't, I mean they're not stopping anyone. But if you do leave, and you come back, you have to quarantine for a period of days. They test us every day. They have strict rules about wearing your mask when you're outside of your room and in the property. And, they just try to, encourage everybody to continue to practice social distancing. But I don't have no complaints. To me, it's like, going from the States, it's like going to play overseas.
Yeah.
That's what I compare it to for me.
Hey, Phil, at the start of the show, we were talking about some of the differences there may be for your top-tier guys as opposed to your middle-tier guys, and then the guys that are still trying to find their way. And we assume that LeBron and those top-tier guys, the conditions for them are probably a little bit different to some of the lower-tier guys. Is there some significant differences?
It should be.
We say there should be. We say they've earned it, but yeah.
No, man. Like I said, look, certain guys, get certain suites or whatever. But everybody's in the hotel. People were making jokes. Brown was going to get one of the whole casitas, have a whole village to himself. But no, man, everybody's here. Everybody's in the hotel. Everybody's being treated the same. So there's 3 different hotels on the property, and they got all 22 teams kind of spread out. And like I said, man, Disney World is a pretty vast, it's a big property. And so if you want to go to the other properties, they have shuttles. It takes about 10 minutes. So I mean, like I said, man, we have everything. You can get barbershop here. You got manicure and pedicures.
Yep.
These guys need to bring any family members, any kids or anything. I know in the AFL over here, they got a bubble in Queensland, and they let these players bring their families up. So are there any families on the property? Any kids at all? Not yet.
Not yet. They what they've done is to kind of get control of the bubble and make sure everything's running smooth. They're not allowing us to bring any families until after the first round of the playoffs. So I think mid-August, mid to late August, you can start. And again, I don't even know all the rules on what the limitations will be, but I know when your families come into the bubble, they have to quarantine.
We earlier on, and you're talking about all the different facilities that the NBA tried to create for the players. Well, Coach and I, we just had a little discussion. I didn't realise that strip clubs are the best place to get chicken wings. Now, Coach,
Hey, Phil, this guy's never been in a strip club in his life.
Yes, I have. I have been in a strip club.
Hey, Phil, he's never been in a strip club, and he don't know how good those chicken wings taste.
Now, it's all an education for me, but we're talking about, of course, Lou Williams, who, for some... I don't know whether he's had a brain freeze, but Coach tried to justify it in the fact that they've got the greatest chicken wings ever at a strip club. Now, I'm just...
No, go ahead, Drew. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know, when you hear something like that, now that you're part of the coaching staff...
Be honest, Phil. Be honest, Phil.
A guy, like if this is a rookie or someone's perhaps a little bit wet behind the ears that just hasn't... Not worldly, but with all the education that you guys are getting... How can someone make a decision to go to a strip club for chicken wings?
Phil, be honest, Phil. Be honest.
No. Like, look, there's multiple sides to it.
Yes.
I've been to some strip clubs that have really good food. I'm gonna tell you too. There are some places that I've been to, but like, look, man, I'm going to get this food. Like real talk.
Yeah.
Like whatever the atmosphere of what it is, but they have great food.
Yeah.
I just think there's a time and place for everything.
Correct.
That's it. That's what it all boils down to. The timing of it. These are just not normal circumstances that we're living in, and the things that we're doing are not normal. So some of the normal stuff that we do, we just can't do. And, I think that's really probably the lesson for Lou to learn in this whole scenario.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, now we watched some of these preseason games. And can you tell us exactly how many people are around the courts? I mean, because the view is so different now when we watch the game. How many people are in the actual stadium or on the actual court?
So you have the players and the coaching staffs, and then you got the people, the games operation people that you see behind the screens, and on the other side of the court, it's probably just other team staff members like the medical staff, general manager, and then they allow a couple of scouts to come in.
Right.
It's not very many people in the building.
They don't let any other players come in and watch you guys play.
Yeah, they haven't. I have not seen any of the other players. I know that they were trying to make concessions for players to come and watch.
Right.
But I haven't seen any. Everything is pretty digital and robot. So a lot of the cameras are robotic cameras.
Wow.
They have.
Right.
They probably have about 10 to 15 cameras around every court. Get all these different angles. There's only one cameraman that's there on the floor, and all the rest of the cameras that you see, they're all robotic cameras.
Wow.
Hey, Phil, and just on where you are right now with the Lakers, and most people would have you guys as the favourites to win the whole thing.
Except me.
Except Copes. But
I want to hear who Copes got.
Don't worry, you're going to hear it. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you.
With you guys and the changes, you've brought a couple of different characters into your team. How do you guys regard it? Do you still get a sense that this has the same importance and same meaning as if it would be in that quest for that final run for a regular championship?
Hey, man, Drewy, people can say asterisk or not.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I want my name to be by that asterisk.
Of course.
Either my name be by somebody else or our team. Look, man, I think LeBron is taking this as serious, and I'm saying starting with him, he's taking this as serious as anybody, and our team and our coaching staff and organization is too. We're not here, for any other reason except for try to finish the job and to compete for a championship. That's our mindset, man.
Talk a little bit about how hard it was to leave Toronto after you won a championship. I mean,
man, Toronto's an amazing city, man.
Yeah, I know.
That is an amazing city, and it was extremely tough for me to leave after that. And people thought I left because of Kawhi, and I was like, no, I had nothing to do with me leaving because I signed a 3-year deal to stay in Toronto, and really what it boiled down to was being back close to my family. I have a 7-year-old son who lives in Los Angeles, and that was a driving force to that. And then also, I got a promotion. So, I was moved to the front of the bench and my title, and it was another step in my career. So between those two things, man, it was kind of a hard opportunity to pass up.
Hey, Phil, just going on the coaching side of things, Copes and I, we did our little journey with the Sydney Kings, had a lot of fun and really proud of the accomplishments we had there. Talk to us about the challenges from a coaching standpoint of getting these megastars to buy into a system. How difficult is it as a coaching staff to get the group all on the one page buying into a system?
Man, I found it. I haven't had any challenges with that, Drewy, because of the guys that you think about the guys I've had a chance to coach. They all want to win. They're competitors. So winning matters to them. So what I've found is those dudes have challenged me and all of our staffs to be better coaches, right? They challenge us to be on top of our game because they want the coaching. They want direction. They want structure. They want to be organized. Man, Bron is one of the most coachable dudes I've ever been around.
Right.
And it's just the opposite. Drew, if we're not coaching, if we're not on our P's and Q's, then that's when there's friction. Like, yo, coach, what are we doing? Like we're not up to par with our game and understanding what our opponents are doing and having a plan. That's when those guys start going crazy. They want the structure and they want some leadership. They want to be challenged in that way. And I've found that, man, that a lot of people think it's just the opposite. It's not. You
Well,
got to stand in the box and coach these dudes. They want to be coached.
Yeah. Hold on. But I remember just on that point, and the reason I asked that question is that I can remember this incident. And
I was going to speak about that. I was just about to speak about that.
It was played out right throughout the world. It was at a timeout. And here's our little old mate, Phil Handy, behind the bench, going toe-to-toe with the greatest.
I'm thinking myself, Phil, we'll be back over here in Australia.
Man. Screw you, at a timeout. It's a heated moment. How do you respond?
No, look, man, we've been in heated moments, right?
Yep.
We've been playing enough games where we're getting smacked for whatever reason. The other team is just no matter what we do, it's just their night. It was one of those nights in Toronto. Yeah. And it was a regular season game. And I'm telling you, Toronto was kicking our ass. It was like we were down 30. Yeah. And it was just everything we were doing was just so discombobulated. Yeah. So we came into a timeout. And I remember that the bench was so frazzled, and Bron was like yelling at some of his teammates, and I said, man, this starts with you. Like, don't yell at them dudes, man. You need to check with yourself. Like, this starts with you, man. Like, they're gonna follow your lead. So it's not just them, it's you too. All you dudes out here messing around. He was like, man, we were just going back and forth. So, but for me though, Drew, I've always tried to be just a no-nonsense type of coach. Yeah. You coach the game, right? Yeah. If players are not doing the right thing, it doesn't matter who it is, tell them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doesn't matter. And it's not about, hurting anybody's feelings or, hey, look, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to coach. Yeah. And if I see something on the floor, if I see something that's outlandish, I'm going to say something. Now, you can deal with it how you want to deal with it. But, I think the level of respect that me and Bron have for each other is obviously well documented, but it's just one of those things, man. We were just getting our bus whooped.
How is LeBron with with his teammates in difficult set of circumstances? We saw a couple of seasons ago with J.R. Smith where he had a brain freeze and just didn't realize what the score was and time, and it looked like you could see his disappointment, of course. But what happens behind the scenes?
No, man, Bron has been great with his teammates. He's never thrown any of his teammates under the bus, ever, whether it be in the media or even in private. Yeah, I think everybody was disappointed in that particular play, but I tell people all the time, that's not what lost that game. No. We know, right? There's all these other leading things that get to that point. That was one glaring mistake, but that's not what cost us the game. And I think Bron was highly upset, just like the rest of the guys. JR was upset, but he never, not once did he ever throw him under the bus. I've never seen him throw any of his teammates under the bus at any given time. He's always been one of those dudes that tried to lift up his teammates and understanding that, hey man, I need you guys.
And what about the style of play that we are seeing for the last few years? Small ball has become really in vogue. 5 out, very little post up, clear it all out, get to the rim or shoot the three. And then we see what Denver dished up. I don't know whether they're going to do it throughout the course and when it really counts, when they got 5 4-men and setters on the floor at the same times. Maybe they're just trying to look at something. But do you see a specific trend or what's the next incarnation of what style is going to be in vogue?
You know what, Drew, you think about the history of the game, right? What team, you tell me what team in any league around the world has ever won just shooting threes and layups? Tell me a team that's won a championship in that fashion. At some point, the mid-range game is a factor. Right? So we talk about what? Let's take good shots. Yes. All good shots. Let's take good threes. Let's take good shots at the rim. Let's take good shots in the mid. But the way the game is going, people are trying to eliminate that whole part of the court. And I don't agree with it.
Good. Here. Yes.
It's the game of basketball, right? So
of course,
come down and let's get the best shot that we can. Doesn't matter where it is on the floor. Let's work our offense, get the best shot. So that part of the game, I totally disagree with. That part of the analytics, I totally disagree with.
The analytics say a certain thing, but you and the Lakers and the coaching staff, I'm sure you listen to that information, but you don't, like it seems a team like the Houston Rockets take it to the extreme. You guys, do you structure your stuff on the basis of the analytics, or do you just, like you say, structure it on creating good shots?
Man, I structure it on the point of let's take good shots. Period. I don't care where they come from. That's my structure.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, I understand we're running out of time here. You got to go work your guys out. But just for this upcoming season, NBA fans, we love the NBA here in Australia. Obviously, your Lakers are right up there. But talk us through the top two teams who you think will come out of the East and who is going to be the biggest threat to you guys.
Man, I tell you what, the East is loaded. I mean, you could take your pick. I mean, obviously Milwaukee's who they are. People are sleeping on Toronto because Kawhi is going. Toronto's still a contender. Boston is tough. Miami is tough. Philly is tough. Yeah, Philly's tough. So you got all of these teams in the East, man. It's gonna be some tough series, And then you coming in the West. I mean, look, you got Clippers, you have Houston, you have Denver, you have Dallas, and people like teams like Portland that are kind of like right now outside the top 8. If that would potentially be our first round matchup in the first round, that's a tough series, man.
Yeah.
Listen, there are no easy. So I think. We have to make sure we're locked into what we're doing, worry about the Lakers and prepare ourselves. But the East, man, I'm looking at the East like I'm going to look forward to watching some of those series in the East because, it's going to be some dogfights.
Well, what team, they may not be necessarily the highest ranked team, but is there a specific team that gives you guys the most trouble? Who do you look at? Is there a team just because their style of play or matchup? Or does anyone?
I think Toronto is a team that gives a lot of people problems because they don't. They got some good play. They have some great play, but they don't have what you would call a Kawhi anymore. But they have great players. Pascal's an all-star. Kyle Lowry's an all-star. Marc Gasol is who he is. But the way that they play so fast. They move the basketball. They spread you out. And they're scrappy on defense. They're long. Those type of teams, man, are tough.
Phil, before you go, last time you were here, not last time, but when you were coaching in Cleveland, you gave me a couple of track suits, right? And you guys went on to win a championship.
That's right.
You call me after this interview and get my address, send me some Laker gear. You guys might have a chance of winning another championship.
Unbelievable.
I'm just telling you what it is. You remember you got me a black one and a gray one. I still got you.
I owe you.
You did, sucker. Send me something.
I owe you, bro. So when we hang up, man, text me Drewy's address, man. I'm going to send you guys some stuff.
Hey, the very last thing, I promise is the very last thing.
Oh, here we go.
Because your phone's dinging. There's probably LeBron saying, "Get your ass here."
The man fired, man.
But before you go, take LeBron out of the equation. Because we know that you're not biased, but it's you don't want to speak against someone that you're so intimately involved in. Outside of him, who is the best player in the NBA right now?
Active player? Man, I'd have to say either Giannis or Kawhi.
Yep.
Yeah, both those guys are just they're beasts, man. But there's a handful of guys that are just super talented.
Yeah.
I would have to say those two guys are, again, Kevin Durant's not playing. He's injured. Right here in the bubble, I'd have to give, away from Bron, I'd have to give Giannis and Kawhi that next nod for those two guys because they're so powerful, man.
Yep.
Giannis has a specific skill set, and Kawhi is just he's a jack of all trades.
Yep.
There you go.
Well, Phil, we know you got to get going. I reckon we've got through about 10% of the questions we had set out for you, and
let's get back to it again, man.
All your insight that you could provide us, because
let's get back to it again, man. We can do it again. Man, let's do it again, man.
Yeah, we're going to do it again. That's the worst thing you could have said to us, because we're going to be badgering you. And
hey, if you guys make the playoffs, Phil, we might think about calling you back. How about that?
That's it. Nah, you guys be fine.
Hey, let's do that, man. We can do one when the playoffs start.
Okay, we'll do that.
Great, man. We're looking forward to it, and let's hope that not only you're in the playoffs, but you go real deep into it. You were my tip. You were my Copes. He went with the Clippers. Can you believe that?
I already know.
I played with the Clippers. I'm going to go with the Clippers. What's wrong with you?
You were there for 1 minute.
I was there longer than you, sucker.
Well, you were there long enough to go and pick up chicken at one of those places at once. That's about how long you were there. You weren't in there once.
Dude, man, don't even worry about that dude, man. It's all right.
Haters.
Be careful wherever we want.
Hey, Phil, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. Good luck, man.
Yeah, good, man.
Win that championship for us, brother.
Good luck, pal. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, man.
Phil Handy, he's a superstar and incredibly generous with his time, Coach. So you must have some real incriminating photos of him for him to jump on our humble little podcast. It's
and
all
stories, photos and stories, pal. He had to get on. I called him, said, Phil, I want you on the show. He goes, okay, what time? And I'll be there. Anyway,
that is some incredible power. But great insight to what's going on in the NBA and some of the challenges they've got. And there is a lot of luck sometimes. You've got to be in the right place at the right time, but it goes beyond luck with Phil Handy. He's a very, very smart man and loves Australia, came back and did some camps with Melbourne United 12 months ago. So he loves to come back here, and we're incredibly grateful for the time that he was able to provide us. But, Coach, speaking of the NBL, let's turn our attention to the NBL. And one of the signings that I'm curious about is Isaac White. Leonard, again, it's the Illawarra Hawks. Brian Goorjian been very impressive.
The Hawks, take that Illawarra out, Joey.
Apologies. He's a kid that spent 3 years at Stanford, originally from South Australia, elite shooter. Saw him play a number of games, and trying to find or make a comparison, maybe a poor man's Brett Maher at this stage. There you go. A poor man's Brett Maher. Now, he's got a long way to go before he become a Brett Maher, because Brett Maher is a superstar, was a superstar. But this is a kid that, to me, fits right in the Brian Goorjian mould. He's a worker. He's a high-energy guy who can shoot it. And
40% from the field last year, from the three-point line.
That's right. So he was transferring out of Stanford, but he's gone his last year of eligibility. So he can shoot the ball.
Julie, how tall is he?
He's not that tall. I probably should have that information. I'm telling he's 6'2".
Yeah,
that type. But a competitor. He's an active type of guy. Saw him play a number of games when he was with Stanford, and he was in and out of the game a little bit, but he got some legitimate minutes. The other one that's signed with the Hawks is
they're making some big signings.
Tyler Harvey, 27-year-old. He's known for his three-point scoring ability.
Flat out scorer, Joey, can get it done. I've seen highlights. He can get it done. He can shoot the ball. He can score the ball. Now, Goorjian usually likes that defensive type of guard.
Yep.
But this guy can push that ball up the floor, shoots a long-range three, or can take it all the way to the basket.
Yeah. Well, I like what they're doing, because the scoring is a premium, of course. You've got to be able to defend. That's the non-negotiable. But you can tolerate some deficiencies at the other end of the floor if you can put the ball in the hole.
Absolutely.
And this is a guy that clearly can do that. Played alongside one of our good friends in Felix Van Hoff at Eastern Washington. So it's not a huge conference, but can put the ball on the floor. And he scored 58 points in a game for the Memphis Hustle in the NBA G League. Now, I don't care what league you're in.
What league it is.
I don't care if you're playing on a Monday night comp in B grade. If you're getting 58 in a game,
you got to have that mentality. You got that mentality to score the rock.
Yes.
And to add those two guys with Ding Adele and Ding Ding and all the signings they've made, plus Brian Goorjian, look out, Hawks. Look out, Hawks.
Well, they're probably the one making the most noise in the off-season. Of course, when you sign Brian Goorjian, that's always going to be the case. But some really good signings there, and I really like the construction of their team. Still got a bit to go, but they're doing really well. The other one is the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix signing Yanni Wetzel. Now, I saw this guy play. He's playing he went to San Diego, University of San Diego State, excuse me. And I saw him playing college basketball. Big guy, but evolved his game when he was at college where he could shoot the three ball.
Yep.
So he's a pick and pop. He can be a pick and pop
guy. Say big, how big? How big is he?
I'm saying he's 6'10".
Wow. Yep.
And mobile, decent athlete. Went to San Diego State. I saw an extended game of his. I was watching him playing against Fresno. And straight away, I called up our good friend Jeff, and I said, Jeff, you need to get onto this kid. This kid looks like he can play. Now, they took a really good, hard look at him, and they were keen to pursue him. But when they got Isaac Humphries and they already had DJ, he was no longer one of their priorities. But he is a kid that I think when you think of that tandem between Dane Pinot and this kid here, Wetzel, because big men are a premium. And if he is good enough that he can open up another opportunity to get a more of a wing for the Phoenix, because they still got Mitch Creek. He's that multiple 3-4 guy, but you can get that. I reckon that elite 2-3 guy that they can put together. But the Phoenix, they've been doing some real handy work as well.
And there's Don Dan Pinot for three more years, which is a plus for them as well.
That is a great plus. He had an outstanding season with Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Hard blue-collar worker. It's going to be no trouble. And you were talking about before small ball.
Yep.
Dane Pinot, in my judgment, is one of the elite big men of keeping little guys in front of him.
Best in the league.
He enables you to switch. Yes, you can switch those 2 to 5, those 1 to 5, the 3 to 5. He can switch on, and Dane is no problems guarding the little guys, moving his feet, great lateral movement, tremendous rebounder.
And can rebound. And didn't he have a couple of games last year where he had 20 rebounds? Or?
Yes, he can.
Yeah, there we go.
No, the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix putting together a really nice roster. Copes, time is getting away from us because of the extended interview that we had there with the great Phil Handy. But before we say goodbye, I just want you to help me out here, because just want to touch on some of the quirky things that's going on. And J.R. Smith, is he going to be a great player? Is he going to be that missing link? Is he going to be that role player that gets the Lakers to another championship? Or is he going to be the guy that dribbled out the clock in the last dying seconds of that Cleveland Golden State Warriors series, where he forgot what the score is in the last 4 seconds and make dumb decisions? Who knows?
A little bit of all of that. Yeah.
It's take the good with the bad. So he played in a practice game a couple of days ago. He was 6 of 7 from the field. Of those 6, they were all 3 balls. He had 20 points in that game, so he must have knocked down a couple of free throws. So you say, great, this is what he can do on the floor. But Copes, he only packed 7 pairs of underwear in a situation where you're potentially going to be away for 3 months.
Right.
Now, I know some of us can be very diligent in putting our stuff in the washing machine. And
Yes.
But 7 pairs of underwear, and it wasn't until after the first week there, he goes, oh, geez, made a bit of a blunder. Should have packed more underwear.
Drewy.
Is that it? Yes.
Listen, a lot of people are laughing at this. I don't see a problem with it because I wash clothes every single day. You can't wear 7 pair of underwear at the same time.
Well, Coach, this is what this is
underwear for 1 day a week. So day 3, when your underwear starts to smell a little bit, put them in the wash.
Well, let's have a listen to J.R. Smith.
What's You obviously. What's the one thing you didn't pack that you wish you did?
Man, more underwear and socks.
How many did you pack to begin with?
I packed like 7 because I figured I'd be good for once a day. But then I ain't calculate all the showers in between everything that I be doing. So I be running through like within 2-3 days.
You
but we got a good laundry system though. We got a great laundry system, so I'm good.
Any of the Disney characters can come lend you some? Donald Duck? I mean,
man, I wish. Mickey Mouse, somebody.
What a great character. You see, he's one of those players that when you hear him talk like that, fun-loving, and we're just having a bit of a joke. We think nothing worse of him about it. But he's one of those, you see that brain freeze he had in that game against the Golden State Warriors where he just forgot what the score was, and maybe in the heat of the moment, the emotional state of it all. And then we saw some vision of him during the Black Lives Matter riots going on, and he's one of those guys.
He's one of those guys you got to take the good with the bad, though, because you know, in the midst of things, when you got him on the floor, he'll knock down that three-pointer for you. He'll take the ball to the basket and drive and make the layup. He's a quality player, and maybe perhaps a little quirky off the floor, but on the floor, he's going to get everything he's got.
Well, let's hope so. Hey, Hoop fans, get excited. The NBA's back with us, and make sure you tune into the NBL, all the NBL action, because a lot of signings going on. We're sort of in that flux right now where we don't know how a lot of these teams are going to come together, but the signs are great. Copes, you're a superstar. Thanks very much for your time again. Congratulations on your 81. A round of golf. You had a hole-in-one last week. This week you went around in 81. Sensational. You're a superstar. You'll be on the tour very, very soon. Perhaps
let's hope so.
The seniors tour. But, yeah, tremendous work by you. It's been a lot of fun. Hey, don't forget to, if you want to see not only this wonderful podcast that we provide, but if you want to see this and more, you go to and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do it. Also subscribe to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I've never heard a lot of these, but they're out there.
Yes, sir.
And all the people that are perhaps more accustomed to it, get on board, subscribe, give us a little bit of a boost along, and we're looking forward to your company next week. On behalf of Leonard Copeland and myself, it's bye for now.
This has been a No Filter Media production.
Say what you want.